Benjamin, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, man, good.
County's using that for store. People have got offices set up in the training.
I'll try. Sarah will take care of it.
We got you.
Got green as hankies for good luck. Okay.
Got the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, we're going to call the January 26th City Commission meeting study session to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as always, we'll begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibilities to do the same. Roll call.
Commissioner Funk.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Treadwell.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Here. And announcements.
Yes, good evening. I have some announcements for this week, the week of January 26, 2026. The weather wasn't favorable last week, so out of an abundance of caution, race organizers for the Peppy Tishner race at Hickory Hills rescheduled to this Wednesday, January 29th. And just as a reminder, that race will include all three local high schools, their ski teams, and some of the best high school ski racers in the state, and they'll be competing under the lights for the coveted Peppy Tishner Trophy. And that event is a crosstown tradition that was established to celebrate the legacy of Peppy, one of Hickory's early founders. This week, this is the last week, I should say, and kudos to those who are still enjoying their Christmas trees for Christmas tree drop-off. That drop-off will conclude at Hall Park this Friday, January 30th. And for those who are dropping off their trees at Hall Park, please make sure that they're free of decorations and other things, because we chip them and use them on our trails and in our parks. And the last few weeks, of course, have been very snow-heavy and cold, and I want to extend a thank you to Frank Deturi and Chris Weber and Department of Public Services and their teams for doing a great job keeping our streets safe, so thank you and your crews. And then just as a reminder that folks need to keep their sidewalks in front of their businesses and residents clear of snow and ice for accessibility for everyone. And that's all that I've got. Thank you.
Any announcements from our city clerk?
Yes. Thank you. Meetings scheduled for this week are the Act 345 will meet Tuesday, January 27th at noon in the second floor committee room. The Downtown Development Authority Governance Committee will meet on Tuesday, January 27th at 1 p.m. again in the second floor committee room. The Grand Traverse Commons Joint Planning Commission will meet on Wednesday, January 28th at 5:15 at Garfield Township Hall. And the Historic District Commission will meet on Thursday, January 29th at noon here in the chambers.
Thank you. So for tonight's study session, we have two topics for discussion. We'll begin with topic number one, which is a discussion of the 2026 pavement preservation projects. Mr. Manitet.
Yes, thank you. We have the city engineer, Ann Pagano, the deputy city engineer, Alex Yaki, our director of public services, Frank Deturi, and our street superintendent, Chris Weber, here sitting up with the team. And you, of course, have a memo from me, but a much more detailed memo from the city engineer, Ms. Pagano, in your packet, outlining the proposed 2026 pavement preservation projects. I just want to highlight that, of course, the Complete Streets Committee won't be in place until likely April, based upon the schedule for interviews for that new transformational committee. And so we need to keep these projects moving in order to be able to bid them and actually enter into contract for the work if we're going to do any such work this year. But once the Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee is formed, the streets within the 2026 Pavement Preservation Plan and others will be prioritized for potential bicycle facility improvements in the future, leveraging the public process that is baked into the Complete Streets Committee, as well as their feedback and perspectives. And so I wanted to highlight that. We're moving forward with this approach, which again allows us to implement these projects to extend the useful life of city streets. We do promise to provide an opportunity again for input for that Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee. And so I think this is a good balance in order to move forward. And we're hoping to have consensus from the commission this evening regarding the proposed projects before putting them out to bid. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Pagano. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for having us here this evening. As Benjamin mentioned, we're here to talk about our 2026 pavement preservation projects, specifically as they relate to the Complete Streets policy. We'd like to get your feedback tonight and answer any questions that you might have. And again, as Benjamin mentioned, in the future, we will be running these projects through the Complete Streets Committee first before we come to see you all and get their input and recommendations. So these projects have been a great collaboration, as always, with our street projects between engineering, planning, Department of Public Services, Department of Municipal Utilities, Parking Services, and others. The streets are prioritized for pavement preservation by DPS based on a number of criteria, including the pavement condition, or the PASER rating, as you've probably heard of, utility replacement needs, emergency routes, traffic volume also is factored into the priority listing, with higher volume streets having higher priority. The 2026 projects that are recommended for both two different treatments, Cape Seal and Mill and Fill. These are preventative maintenance projects to extend the life of the street, so they don't involve moving or replacing curb. This is simply asphalt treatment. So we're not moving curbs, so we're constrained by the width of the existing streets with these projects when considering multimodal improvements. The mill and overlay projects, there's a map on page 6 of the memo if you'd like to see them on a map. The construction timeframe for those is to start in the spring of 2026. There's 3 streets total, which is 1.25 miles, and all 3 of these streets are identified as the proposed Vision Bike Network in the Mobility Action Plan. And then in the Cape Seal projects, there's a map on page 7. The construction timeframe for those are late summer or early fall of this year. There's 11 streets total, 3.4 miles, and 6 of those are on the proposed Vision Bike Network. The criteria that we considered for bike facility analysis includes the speed, the traffic volume, the street width, as I mentioned, curb to curb, the parking layout and potential loss of parking spaces, and connection to adjacent bike facilities. Some of the tools that we use to analyze these options are the Mobility Action Plan, as I mentioned, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control, or the MUTCD, the FHWA Bikeway Selection Guide graph, which Alex has up here on the screen for you all to take a look at. This was on page 8 of the memo as well. And I wanted to mention that this graph is typically used for new streets, not retrofits, so that kind of throws a little loop into it, but we're doing the best we can with what we have to work with. And as you can see, it's based on speed and volume of the street. And it's intentionally blurry. As you can see, there's a white area, a light blue, and a dark blue area. And it's like that intentionally to allow engineering judgment and context-sensitive decisions to be made depending on the street. And we'll go through an example of how we used this chart in just a minute here. So as detailed in the memo, we are recommending for now to put back the current paint markings in these maintenance projects, with the exception of Front Street, which we'll talk about in a minute here, to allow the Complete Streets process to take place before making any major changes to the streets. The paint can be changed later, so if we put back what's there now, what we would do is not recess any of the paint to allow for changes to take place in the future if desired. And so we would recommend a public process for any major changes, such as removing parking. So we wanted to start with our recommendation for Front Street, and then we can walk through an example that we did for Union Street, because it was one of the more complicated ones, so we thought we could talk through that one. And Alex did a wonderful job analyzing these, and you can see from all the attachments there, it was quite a lot of work to go through this process, but definitely worth it, and I think we're headed in the right direction. So do you want to ask some questions now, or should we jump into Front Street?
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have questions, but I think we'll just
Let's jump
wait.
into Front Street.
Okay, sounds good. I'll hand it over to Alex to walk us through that.
So this is the Front Street Bikeway analysis. What it does, it kind of sums up the context of the street, the segment that we're going to work on. Talks about what's existing for non-motorized, street width, which varies and is plus or minus. Posted speed limit, our historical traffic counts, which for this particular street carry on to the second page. It's about 7,542 cars per day. From the mobility action plan, we have the bicycle level of traffic stress. This particular portion of Front Street has a level 2, lower stress, probably because it has a bike lane already. And then we get to the chart, and the chart shows that based on the volume, upon new construction, the separated bike lane or shared use path should be considered. However, with this particular project, we don't have the opportunity to necessarily do that. So we can jump over to the map, and this map goes from east to west. Normally the maps go the other way, but Front Street is one way westbound. So we identified the opportunity to reduce the north drive lane from about 12 feet to 10 feet. That would provide a buffer, which is shown here, for the existing bike lane. That carries through from Boardman all the way to Pine is the segment that we're looking at for this particular project. The dotted lines, if you're wondering, it's to indicate a kind of a mixing zone. You'd have vehicles here pulling to the right to get in the right turn lane. So it's to designate that the bike lane drops off. You switch to a Sharrow arrangement where the bicyclist is expected to mix with traffic through the intersection, and then once you get to the other side of the intersection, you can get back into the designated bike lane. So here we are at Pine. That's Front Street.
Okay, so let's discuss Front Street. There are questions specific to the Front Street recommendation. Jackie?
We had this conversation, and I was enlightened, but I think there probably is more that you can tell me about it, and that is about the 10-foot width on the north-westbound lane. And, you know, understanding that as a northern Michigan community, we may have a higher than normal proportion of pickup trucks and full-sized SUVs. And
Is there any data
they,
on that?
I have none, but I'm making a supposition based on personal observation, and just checking out the width of a typical Ford 150 pickup truck being close to 8 feet wide. It seems like some we're reducing our elbow room, obviously, and so I don't know. At what point are we putting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag? Help me here.
Sure. So 10 foot is generally accepted as the minimum lane width. And before my time, my understanding is that the commission has requested that we, minimize lane widths, because it does help with traffic calming. When your lane is wider, you feel like you can drive faster, right? So that's just been the way we've been designing streets lately in the last few years. The option would be to go a little wider on the lane width, and then we could make either a smaller buffer or just make a wider bike lane. That's another option.
Could you describe for me what in engineering speak the buffer means exactly? I mean,
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
when you refer to a buffer, when I was first
Oh,
reading the
sure.
document, I thought, oh, is that a physical barrier of some kind?
Okay.
But it isn't. Tell me
A physical
more.
barrier would be a separated bike lane. This is just a buffered bike lane. So you can see on the graph there, the white stripes, it would be a painted striped area. So it's not a physical, it's just a painted area that would give more width basically for the bike lane.
So it draws attention to the bike lane and differentiates it from the travel lane.
Exactly, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
There's nothing physically stopping a car from going over it,
Right.
but would we expect ticketing for lane violations if cars are crowding the bike's lane? Or is it the expectation that cars will stay within the lines?
Well, that's the idea, that they'd stay in their lane, yes.
Any other questions from commissioners?
So that current north-westbound lane is 12 foot, and we're cutting it down to 10 feet to create the 2-foot buffer
Correct.
between the bike lane and the parking. So parking stays the same. Do we want that lane in particular going slower by narrowing it versus making, splitting the difference between the two lanes?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We want to keep the center line the same, so in that case, if we were going to make the other lane more narrow, we'd have to move the center line, and the way that Front Street is laid out right now with the mid-block crossings, we'd have to do a center lane shift, like when you get to the mid-block crossing, the cars would have to go like this, you know what I mean?
Those
Because of
little
the way
refuge islands, right?
I'm sorry?
Are those the little refuge islands?
Yeah,
Or are those
the mid-block crossings.
the raised we have raised crosswalks, we have bump outs, but the little refuge islands, where's a good example of one of those on front?
There's an example right there, right to the right of the word front is
Okay.
the mid-block crossing, and there's
Okay.
several of those on Front Street. And the way those are laid out, we wouldn't be able to keep we want to keep the center line where it is so that the cars don't have to switch, move around when they're going through there.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yeah, how is parking gonna work? The parallel parking on the north side there,
So this particular recommendation doesn't have any change to the parking.
so, okay, but I'm on a bike and I'm riding down that buffered lane, and somebody wants to parallel park on the other side of me, right?
Yep.
So they're actually going to go into the bike lane.
Yeah, that's
then
how it is now. There's a bike lane on the north side and then the parking beyond
Yeah.
that. So, yep, that's how it is now, and that's how it would be with this
But
proposal.
with this buffered lane, you may have actually more bikers trying to use that lane because it's called out, whereas it's kind of invisible right now. I don't know. It all seems very dangerous.
Commissioner Anderson?
Maybe a clarification. Is the buffer, the painted buffer, intended for no one to use it?
Right, it's just kind of a blank space. I'm not sure what the right word is, but just a barrier between, not
A
physical,
visual
but just a
barrier.
painted area.
So bicycles would use their current lane.
Correct,
Cars would use
yes.
their current lane, but a narrower version of the
Yes.
current lane. And then there would be this unused
buffer.
demilitarized zone
Yeah,
between the two.
yes.
State law already requires.
Commissioner Treadwell, can you just wait until Commissioner Anderson finishes her train of thought? Are you?
Oh, yes,
Good,
thank
okay.
you.
Yep.
I was done.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
State law already requires that all vehicles give a 3-foot buffer when passing a bicycle. So if anything, this is demarcating physically that space, but only part of it.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Funk?
Is this going to begin at Boardman, where the one-way starts? That's where it would begin on the east end. How far down was this going to go again?
Pine
Pine.
Street?
To Pine? Okay.
Goes to Pine.
Any other questions or discussion around the proposed changes on Front Street? Okay. Ms. Pagano, you can continue with the
So I guess I would just
presentation.
ask generally, is this idea supported for us to go forward? Because we would like to go out to bid soon, and so the next time we would come would be with the contract for approval.
Let's have a discussion around that. Commissioner Funk.
Nothing that I read in this packet was, like, left me where I was not going to say, go ahead and do what you got to do. I just had clarifying questions, questions of concern, comments to take into consideration, but nothing in this was so egregious to me that I'm like, I'm gonna stop on this. So,
Okay,
Thank you for that. Commissioner Treadwell?
Yeah, I've had some close calls biking on Front Street, especially with cars pulling into or out of parking spaces, or cars just opening their doors into the bike lane. And that 2 feet of extra buffer might only be paint, but it does allow a little more breathing room for, frankly, all road users to give each other a little more personal space and safety.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. My final question is, does this have anticipated cost for implementation as just more paint, or?
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Yes, there is additional costs, and DPS might want to comment on that, but, you know, there will be additional paint with the buffer that would need to be replaced probably annually, like we do most of our symbols and lines. So, yeah, there
Road
will be
striping is
additional
another conversation.
Yeah.
The question on the cost of the paint?
So currently with the bike lane, it's just a 6-inch white line, which we pay price per foot. In this buffered, I'm assuming it's 2 4s or 2 6-inch lines?
2 6-inch.
2 6-inch lines, so it's at least double the cost of what's currently there.
Could you quantify that in dollars, just roughly?
That would be helpful.
I'd have to look at it.
Ballpark?
I know that our Legends painting is 24 cents a foot, but this would be done by our long lines contractors, so I could look real quick what the current bid is. And that contract does, I think, have 2 more years on it. So that price could be realistic, but I could take a look at it.
It looks like it's a 1/4 of a mile stretch. That's on the, that'd be helpful, thank you. Are there other, while we look up that, Commissioner Anderson?
I will support this. May I make a request that when we've had a year's experience with this configuration, could you come back to the city commission with a report in terms of any trends in terms of either negative vehicle interactions, vehicle bike interactions, you know, just is there a way that we can assess whether this was a successful way to improve safety on Front Street? Because
Absolutely,
I think
we
that's
could bring
our
some data.
objective.
Yeah, absolutely. We could look at the crash data. We can look at, we could do some counts as well, before and after, although we'll see when we do it. We might not have before counts, but we can have after counts at least to let you know how many cyclists are using the bike lane.
And just a general philosophy, if there were ways to direct bicycle traffic off of Front Street, I would be even happier. Thanks.
Commissioner Shaw, do you have any feedback?
Yeah, well, that's kind of my thought too. I would never ride my bike on this street. And my kids are prohibited from ever riding their bikes. I would never recommend that anybody ride their bike on Front Street. Between the volume of traffic and the unbuffered, I mean, it's still unbuffered, and you've got people trying to park, forget it. I think we need crosstown, bike only, up and down summer streets. But that's a discussion for another time, and in the meantime, I just hope we don't have any. But, you know.
Commissioner Funk?
ahead.
I don't know if this has ever been talked about before. I know with the state highways, we don't necessarily control the speed limits, but with the local streets, Front Street is a local street, are we able to lower the speed limit if we wanted to? I don't think anyone ever is intending to go, you don't cut through downtown to get somewhere faster. So is there a possibility that we could lower that speed?
I don't believe so. Typically, the speeds are set based on the actual driving speeds, and from
If
what
we
I've seen recently, that's maybe a little more than 25,
If we,
so
if we study them, we could actually end up making it faster.
unfortunately, yes.
So it's only faster, we don't have a mechanism to like walk speed back, because that's one place in particular I look at downtown and say, we could definitely go through here slower. It's kind of it's a cruising experience for most people. I think you want to go slow and just enjoy the beauty of it. So I feel like that makes it safer, and it's also encourages people to go slower by having a lower speed limit. And then we have the enforcement mechanism of, you know, if you speed, you get a ticket.
So what I've heard is general support and consensus for this change, with a suggestion, a great suggestion from Commissioner Anderson, that in a year we look at some metrics, some evaluative metrics on safety and success of this change.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Can do that. Okay, thank you for that. And then we are prepared to talk through our analysis on Union Street if you'd like us to do that. But
Yes, please.
I would love to hear also your feedback just in general about our approach of just putting back what's there now and then going through the Complete Streets Advisory Committee once that's formed. But why don't we go through this and then we'll double back to that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So Union, the segment that we're talking about here is from Garland Street to the South Union Street Bridge. Posted legal speed is 25 miles an hour. Traffic counts that we have on file. Roughly 6,000 cars a day. The bicycle level of stress is 4, most likely because there are no bicycle facilities on the street now. When you take into account the volume, we're in the bike lane realm upon new construction. We have 3 concepts that we've come up with. We have a shared lane concept. We have a no parking on both sides, prohibited. And then we have no parking on the west side. What we're looking at here is the shared lane concept. Basically all the long lines would remain the same. We would add what's known as sharrows in the drive lanes. The sharrows are mostly there to indicate to drivers that it's a shared space and they can expect to encounter bicycles fully within the drive lane. So this is Garland Street moving south between Front and State. As you can see, all the parking that's there now would remain. And then we get to South Union Street Bridge, and arrows continue to the bridge. This is the end of our project. Parking would remain in front of the post office. So that was concept A. Concept B is to eliminate all parking and provide bike lanes on both sides. What we're looking at here. So you can see we show sharrows, and what used to be the parking lane is now the bike lane, both sides of the street. Be able to maintain the parking at the post office because of the curb bump out that we have there. That's concept B, and then the last one is concept C, and that is where parking is eliminated on the west side. Parking would remain on the east side, so you can see here black. So this would require a centerline shift to make that happen. It's not very long, but we would end up with kind of a shorter bike lane on the west side, east side, excuse me, to go around the parking that would remain, and then the bike lane through southbound, get to the bridge, the post office parking remains, and we get kind of the beginning of a bike lane here, northbound, and then a full bike lane southbound to the bridge. The bridge width, curb to curb, doesn't really support a bike lane, so even if we had bike lane south of the South Union Street Bridge, we'd still have a sharrow situation over the bridge.
Okay. comments, questions, general discussion from commissioners on Union Street? Commissioner Anderson.
In terms of the options and the parking, number of parking spots that could be preserved or eliminated, I am sensitive to the reduction of parking that's going to be coming in conjunction with the Farmers Market Pavilion nearby to this stretch. And I personally am most supportive of the option that preserves parking on both sides of Union.
Which it looks like that is the design team's recommendation, is the shared lanes. How I read it. Is that right?
Isn't that correct, Dan?
I'm
Is that
sorry,
correct?
yes.
That's
That
that's
is
the
what
recommendation,
des-
is the shared lanes.
Through the design team, yes.
Okay,
However, what we
great.
are recommending this evening is putting back what was there before, and I don't believe there's sharrows on Union Street currently.
Okay. And
What-
what's the
was-
implication for parking?
I'm sorry?
What's the implication for parking?
And not changing anything
Okay,
with the
great.
parking, yeah.
That was with option A?
Mhm.
Not to change the parking, but
Correct.
to add the sharrows and make the traffic lanes also bike lanes with the sharrows.
That was option A, yes.
Option A, okay.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? Commissioner Shaw.
Maybe I'm not looking at the right thing here. Is this option that I see on page 92 of putting the bike lanes on near the sidewalk, on the other side of parking? Am I looking at the wrong thing?
Let me grab page 92 really quick.
So you have the traffic lanes, you have the parking lanes, and then it's on the outside that you have the bike lanes, next to the curb.
When is that, Alex?
The parking would remain adjacent to, next to the curb.
Okay, so this drawing I'm looking at on page 92 is not part of this.
Well, the 92 here, oh,
Are we
so
looking at
that,
the same thing?
that is just to designate the existing street width and where parking is currently prohibited.
So red is prohibited, is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
And then yellow means metered. So it's just, it's a map to designate where parking is allowed currently.
Currently.
92 is this.
No.
This is
Oh, I've
what
got a
I'm looking
different-
at.
I'm looking at something different for page 92. Alex, can you just come over here and take a look at what she's got on her screen?
Looking at that, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at
Yeah.
that.
This on the screen.
Yes, that's correct. Heather.
So these
Yeah.
are showing the different options. So option A is the sharrows, parking remains, and this is a sharrow. And then B,
Parking is eliminated.
parking is eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
On one or both sides, right? Yeah.
I wrote one or both.
But you meant both, yeah, okay.
So those are the expected bike lane widths with buffers. C was accommodate parking with narrow bike lanes, which is ultimately what we didn't choose to develop as a concept. So the bikeway analysis kind of comes before we actually draw the concept maps. So that might be the disconnect.
So the recommendation is concept A. Is that
From the
right?
design team,
From the
yes.
design team,
Sharrows,
okay.
Yep.
I wonder at, maybe this is more of a question for you, Benjamin. What kind of guidance engineering needs from the city commission to move beyond the status quo when we're talking about the conflict between existing parking or travel patterns? In other words, at what point do trade-offs such as parking removal or lane narrowing or reallocation become a policy decision instead of a staff constraint? Like how is all of this going to work?
And I want to turn to you if I
Yeah.
could to address that.
So I'm not aware of any policies about, bike lanes taking precedence over parking. But what our recommendation was to go through the Complete Streets Policy or Advisory Committee, which then we would go into some public process of some sort. If the recommendation from the committee was to remove parking, then the next step, I believe, would be the public process to get public feedback from that.
So we're still,
idea.
we're waiting for this Complete Streets Advisory Board kind of to get, and then they
Yes.
would start thinking about policy and then bring it to engineering and bringing it, okay.
So what's before us today is just these preventive maintenance.
Right, so. I mean,
Basically,
we're
just
basically
move,
leaving everything the
just
same.
do everything the same with these other recommendations, and then the policy is going to come from Complete Streets recommendations back.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right, and you're just basically messing around with how you're drawing the lines, so the lines can be redrawn.
So for all the streets other than Front, we'll put back what's there now, and then for Front, we'll put in the buffer that we talked about, yeah.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Funk?
That's kind of what I was just looking at and thinking, because the recommendations from the,
Design team?
the bike, the bike policy, I'm sorry.
Oh, the
The
Complete
Complete
Streets
Streets.
Committee?
Thank you. The
Uh-huh.
Complete Streets Committee, you know, those recommendations are going to weigh pretty heavily into, they're the most frequent users of the bikes. And how they feel that those bikes are incorporated into this, they're going to make a recommendation. But we're going to look at these other things like how much parking are we sacrificing
Mhm.
with that recommendation? So we're
Right.
going to have to take that into consideration. But, because even looking at this right now, the volume and speed graph is showing that this should have separate bike lane or shared youth path. And that's that Sharrow, right? That was page 88, it's just up a couple. For the volume and the speed in that area.
The
Yeah.
Sharrow is the white area, the shared lane. So a separated bike path is essentially, or bike lane is
That's the
what
buffer.
is the buffered bike lane, yeah.
Yep.
But again, that is for new streets. We don't always have enough room to
Yes.
do what, is recommended, so we're
I
doing the
got
best
you.
we
The
can.
recommendation was kind of conflicting with what it looked like the volume and speed recommendation was making, but you clarified that, so
Okay.
thank you.
Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes, I am a little curious, especially with the Union Street, how this will play, depending on, since we haven't yet had the conversation on whether State Street is going to continue being two-way or revert to one-way. I know we can't do any painting on there now, but it would have an impact on what the ultimate configuration of turn lanes and how cars stack up behind them. I've noticed if I'm going northbound on Union Street past Rotary Park, that cars can stack up quite a bit very near to the curbs. And yes, we can have a designated bike lane, but if it evaporates approaching an intersection, it does make it a little more difficult and introduce additional conflict points.
Right. I'm hoping that we're going to have a decision on the two-way in the near future, so we can plan accordingly going forward and work with the Complete Streets Committee on, the options.
Any further discussion on this? Do you feel, Ms. Pagano, like you have what you need from
think we
this
do,
discussion and
yes.
clarifying questions?
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Great.
I have more questions.
Okay, Heather?
First of all, the asphalt zipper, that's your mill and fill machine now? Is that right?
That would be for in-house projects. These projects we've bid
They're
out
all
to
gonna bid out.
contractors just because of the scale.
I worry a little bit about all the street work that's gonna be going on around the hospital and how traffic patterns are gonna, sometimes it's 7th Street and then it's 6th Street and then it's Elmwood, and you have a plan for how to move traffic around in there?
We've reached out to Munson to talk about their medical campus drive entrance, and it's ongoing.
It's always so crowded over there anyway, and it's just, so where's Bay Street in all of this? It shows up as a Cape Seal on your map, but there's not a word about it in here.
So that wasn't on the mobility action plan as a proposed vision bike network corridor.
However, it's come up over and over again, people complaining about how heavy the traffic is, how they're speeding, how dangerous it is. I think we'd
I've
like to-
actually got it on the list to talk to the Complete Streets Advisory Committee about, so, yeah, I've got a list of streets that have come up in many different situations, including here and at the traffic committee and other areas, so that is definitely one that we want to look at.
Okay, because that roundabout really changed things. People just zoom off and head down Bay Street.
Well,
And, so, yes, I think that's important. I also think for the record, it's important to talk about why we're not doing anything about 7th Street, which is like the worst Payzer rating we have in the city.
I'll have to, it's on the list. I don't know where it stands in the list, but also I have in the budget, if it's approved, to start the design for the reconstruction of 7th Street. I think that's going to be a very long process because there's a lot going on there with it's currently one way. Do we want to look at making it two-way? There's a bike lane. Do we want, how do we want to do that? I think it's going to just take a while. So if that's approved, I'd like to get a consultant on board and get a public process going. I'd like to do a very robust public process on that. So that's
Yeah, we
my
had a
plan for
letter
now,
from
if you guys are
Audrey
good with that.
Rossi the other day about changing the directions of the one-ways so that 7th Street is actually going east and 8th Street is going west so that you could drop your children off and not have them cross the street.
Yeah, we'll have traffic engineers involved with this so they can look at all those options, absolutely.
Okay, now, last year's pavement project had a lot of bioswales and dry wells, and there are no bioswales and dry wells going in any of
Right,
these projects?
so these are just the pavement preservation projects. We aren't doing anything other than treatment on the actual asphalt.
So the Monroe Street reconstruction, that would have some
Yes, that's a
information
full
about that.
reconstruct. We're removing curb, everything. Yes.
Okay. Now I have a few questions about the complete streets. Is there a timeline at all?
I know there are interviews that are scheduled for, I want to say it's the second or third week of March. It's certainly well into March. And then as soon as those interviews are done, if the committee's prepared, they could make a recommendation to the commission. My guess is that'll probably be the first regular meeting in April is when you'll see those. Does that sound about right, Sarah?
I believe so. I was trying to confirm real quick, but yeah.
So how about the 1% that's, of the annual budget that's been pledged to Complete Streets? What is the plan for using that?
Right, so that goes back to that list of projects that I have going. I would like to bring that up at the Complete Streets Advisory Committee and have them help prioritize, which of those would like to start somewhere and
Okay,
start.
so you're going to wait until we have a committee before you will?
Correct. That's my understanding, is that was one of the purposes of the committee, was to help guide us in terms of recommendations on how to spend that 1%.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
All right, well, that's all I have.
Commissioner Shaw, anything else? Commissioner Anderson?
If we could back up to the Elmwood project for a moment, just, I'm glad that Commissioner Shaw brought up the issue of traffic management around the hospital, as peak patient count time tends to align with peak pavement times. So
Right.
it's a lot of forces coming together. The intention is to also consult with Munson concerning the potential for elimination of parking on the east side of Elmwood, correct?
Potentially, if that's what the committee recommends.
But if they recommend it, we would engage
Yes,
Munson, certainly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Complete Streets Committee, just to
Yes.
clarify.
Okay, so
Okay,
this
thank you.
is another issue that's going to go before the Complete Streets Committee
Yes.
for guidance. Thank you.
So we'll have a number of recommendations coming from the Complete Streets Committee back to the City Commission for policy, and I think that's really the critical next step.
Yep, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
And then one last wishful thinking question. There been any technology advances in waterborne paint? Can we look forward to anything slightly more durable? Is there, what's
Not
on the
that
horizon?
I'm aware of. I think Chris has been looking into options, but not that I know of.
One of the things that could make the paint last a little bit longer would be the recessing or, setting the markings underneath just below the surface. But wouldn't really probably be recommended on a Cape Seal project. That's more of on like an asphalt surface, because the whole point of the Cape Seal is a new contiguous surface that's completely seals the street, and it's not, it's maybe an inch thick at maximum. So
Yeah.
that's probably not something we would recommend on a Cape Seal project, but that could be something that could be done on the mill and fill projects. And that could be done at any time. So if there were changes recommended by the Complete Streets Committee, that could be done after the fact, after the street had been mill and filled.
So that again would be in their realm of recommendations.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Chris. Any further questions on this topic?
We kind of jumped around. We were going like through specific road projects one at a time, and then we kind of started talking about random ones. Are we going to get back into a flow of all the different preservation projects that are going to happen and talking about them individually, or?
Does the commission feel like we need to go street by street?
Recognizing,
that
if
was
I
the-
may jump in, just recognizing that the approach is to essentially keep the paint all the same until we've got the Complete Streets Committee in place to help inform that. So we weren't really planning on going through all of them for that reason.
Our
Yeah.
plan is to go through them in that detail with the Complete Streets Advisory Committee and then narrow it down so we don't have to go through all the details of all the options here with the commission.
Yeah, that would have been a really long meeting.
Yes, it took, just so
That's
you
where I
know, it
thought the
took us,
direction this was going. I'm like,
yeah,
me a little,
it took us
Commissioner
3
Chief and
hours to
Catherine
go
over there are
through
gonna
it
get
at
really
design
tired.
team, so.
No, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I mean, I want you to be able to, begin the process of getting this pavement preservation work bid for and those wheels turning.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, we're going to open it up for public comment, and I will have the clerk read the rules for public comment.
We ask that you state your name and address, indicate if you're a city resident, non-city resident, and/or city business owner. We have a 3-minute time allotment per speaker. When your time has elapsed, the timer will beep. And finally, request that all language be respectful to all parties.
My name's Rick Venner. I'm a resident of Traverse City. I'm on the board of directors for the Cherry Capital Cycling Club. I'm a grandfather of 7 young adults that live in the area. I'd first like to start out by complimenting all the work that's been put into this. A lot of careful work and a lot of thought put into it, a lot of preparation. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'll maybe save that for another time. I don't know if it's too late to mention one observation when we're talking about Union, specifically between Grandview and Front. It's an opportunity to do something sooner than later and not wait for the advisory committee, I think. If you look at slide number 48, it doesn't take away any parking, but it takes it from, and I haven't heard any discussion, but it takes it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. I don't know that there's anywhere that area, that stretch of road, it's warranted to have a 4-lane road between Grandview and Front Street. So by just making it 2 lanes, you now have the opportunity to put buffered bike lanes on there. And I see that as, because I have family and myself that ride bikes down to the farmer's market and downtown, an incredible crossing to come into the farmer's market if you have at least part of it that has a delineated bike lane. When you come across from this beautiful new Bayfront Park bikeway, right now there's a huge sidewalk, but right away it says no riding bikes on the sidewalk. So you go over to a 4-lane road with a curb. So I feel as a cyclist that I'm not welcome there. And also you have people, as you know, that turn quickly off of Grandview onto Union because they're looking at oncoming traffic. They're not thinking about bikes and pedestrians so much. So the traffic count isn't isn't the big picture. The picture is what's going on there. So I think having a delineated bike lane would make it just so much safer. So I ask you, before you make your final decision, maybe it's been made, to consider reducing it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes in that one stretch. Keep the parking if that's a discussion for later. Anyhow, that's all I have to say, but thank you, and really thank you for all your good work, too.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Marantat, do you have any comments before we move on to the next agenda item?
No, I think we'll
Oh,
circle
I'm
back
sorry,
here.
we do have more public
Oh, yeah,
comment.
yep.
Leslie Ray, 304 West 13th Street. No disrespect, Chief Richmond, my buddy Chief Toller. I hardly ever come to these because you guys never listen. You guys talk about speed, speed, speed. Well, guess what? You can't do too much with 2 or 3 police officers on patrol at any time. You can't pull people over on Front Street, Mr. Funk, because there's nobody to patrol it.
I'm sorry, is this about the bikes, the topic that we were
About
on?
a lot of things. I have my right to speak.
That would be under general
Yeah,
public comment, not this
We're going to
agenda
do
item.
that at the end. Thank you. Okay, any further public comment on this topic?
I did look into our current long lines contract. The buffered bike lane is comprised of the 2 6-inch white lines with the hash in between. It's not something we currently have in our inventory. It was implemented this year during this year's Cape Seal project on Carver Street, but we don't have those numbers in front of us at the moment. Our current long lines contractor charges 10 cents a foot for 6-inch white lines. So 2 6-inch lines, there's 20 cents, and then whatever the cost in between would be for the hash. But I don't have exact numbers. It's not something we currently have in our inventory until this year.
Likely not a large expense is what you're hearing.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you for that.
Fairly negligible in the grand scheme. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to our second topic for discussion, which is EMS primary transport update.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Good
thank
evening.
you very much.
Thank you. All right, so I'll just share, of course, we have Fire Chief Jim Tuller with us. We also have EMS Administrator Catherine Dunklo from the Fire Department team. And in November of 2023, the city voters, of course, approved a 20-year millage to provide for our fire department to provide emergency transport services and serve as that primary transport provider. And so the purpose of the agenda item tonight is to provide you and the public with a status update on where we're at with standing up and ultimately launching that service. So I'll turn it over to Chief Tuller and EMS Administrator Catherine Dunklo.
Hi there, thank you. Let me make sure you guys can hear me here. So this has been an absolute labor of love from the get-go. We're very excited to make this happen, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you guys an update on the project. So, thanks. Thank you, Vanna. So July 2024, I looked back into some of the historical documents prior to my being hired, and this looks like that is the date when the project started. From there was a little bit of a lead up to get some things rolling, getting my position created and things like that, ordering ambulances and equipment before I got here. On January 2025, we had 17 licensed firefighter paramedics on staff and full staffing. We would need our captains and lieutenants included in this. They're also firefighter paramedics. It would be 30, so 10 on each shift. February 2025, I was hired, and our new ambulance was delivered shortly thereafter. We quickly got that into service. Not a whole lot of lead time. Some of the things that we're seeing delays on with this ambulance that we currently have. And that was state inspected April 2025 and put on the road and is being utilized currently. In May, we had 2 individuals start paramedic school, and after May, around June time, there were 3 new hires added to the team. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Well, that works. I was going to say, I
Thank you,
have a
Sarah,
backup
for
here
your
on
quick
my,
fix.
on my
Thinking
computer.
on your feet.
October 2025, our second ambulance was delivered. It's had graphics placed on it. We have equipment sitting, waiting to be placed on it. But we do have a slight delay in that, and we may have to wait until June. We're waiting for some radio templates from the state of Michigan that we don't have control over. So as soon as we get those, that ambulance will be placed into service as well and quickly licensed at the ALS level, the same as our current ambulance that's in use. November 2025, we are continuing our current EMS model until we are ready to transport ourselves. And this month, we have closed our application period on the 16th, and we have our physical agility test at the end of the week, which we are looking forward to. In March, we have the two people that were enrolled in the paramedic program. They'll be graduating. They're in their internship right now, so going through the steps with that, and then they'll test and hopefully be licensed sometime in April. And then our projected primary transport from the beginning was July 2026, or 2026, excuse me. And what's next and ongoing, so it's always a continued effort to maintain compliance with DEA requirements, medical control requirements, state requirements, and things like that. We've been doing lots of training with some new workflows and practices to improve our care delivery and patient care outcomes, and we target those using best practices and evidence from different sources like the National EMS Operations, hang on, sorry. National Association of State Emergency Medical Services Officials and state best practices and other agencies around the country. We are also upgrading our equipment on the ambulances, and we have moved partially into the 520 building next door. So we have a little extra space, which has been helpful for storage of EMS equipment and things like that. We actually utilized that space for training today, which was nice. And then I'm going to skip the paramedic program partnership because that was something that we were going to discuss, but that is no longer occurring. We are working toward a solution for that. And hopefully we will have some personnel onboarding that we will be working through and some changes with that. So here's just a couple pictures of kind of what we've been up to. So the upper right-hand corner is Alpha 1, which is being utilized, called Rescue 1, until such time as we're ready to be transporting. We've also been recognizing the guys for the hard work that they do. So that was actually, that middle top is the Life Saving Award program that we put on. That was really, really nice, where we had a survivor come and speak, and I know we talked about that at this meeting as well. On the left upper, we actually have equipped all of our pickup trucks with AEDs, which we didn't have those before, and they're also equipped with standardized first aid kits too. So anytime you see a Traverse City Fire Department pickup truck has an AED and a first aid kit in it. And then the other photos are training, putting our new video laryngoscope into place, some EMS storage upgrades over at Station 2 that needed a little bit of a facelift, so that was really nice. It's a little bit easier to find equipment over there. And then more pictures of training, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that is Alpha 2, sitting in Station 2 right now, currently just waiting for that next step to have the equipment placed on it. We've also done some community outreach as well, teaching some middle schoolers CPR. We've been to the senior center, and on the lower right-hand side is my office in the 520 building. And then in the lower left-hand corner, you can see Chief Tuller placing an IO needle, intraosseous needle, into a bone, which is another method for us to deliver fluids and medications, which is really nice. We were able to upgrade our IO drills this year as well. So lots of upgrades, lots of workflow changes, and the guys have been really, really great about it with all the extra workload, and it's been good. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay,
I did just want to point out, too, I wanted to thank the city commission. I put this in my cover memo, but for approving the collective bargaining agreement for our fire department. It has helped position us to recruit some folks. We have someone joining us relocating here from Texas, and another person, hopefully, can I say it, from North Carolina. And great, thankfully, they also have ties to this area, which really helps. It helps anchor people here. But to offer wages and a benefits package that allows us to be an attractive employer is essential for us being able to provide these kinds of services. And I just wanted to highlight that, and thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Shaw?
When I look at this, are you expecting to roll this out and have it go live in July?
That is very dependent on staffing. We would have to basically immediately hire firefighter, paramedics that are ready to go to make this happen by that
Because
timeline.
I was
It's still a
concerned
possibility,
by that
but
letter that we received from Jacob Steichen today, saying, oh my gosh, we need 8 people right now.
Mhm.
So it's dependent on if you get the hires.
Correct, yep, and that was the proposed timeline for the beginning, but, yeah, if we don't get the staffing that we need, we're not going to be able to make this happen safely or effectively.
Commissioner Anderson?
And so anticipating that was a very optimistic approach to your staffing challenges, is there a plan B in terms of timing, some more realistic expectation?
It is possible, right? July is possible.
If we would have to hire like right now to make this happen, probably within the next month, we would have to start like getting people really applying, seeing a big influx of people, which is not likely, given history. We have seen more paramedics apply, though, this go-around with the improvement in the contract, but it's still, the numbers aren't where we want them to be as far as people applying goes. And if it continues at this trajectory, I would have to look and see if 2 people apply every hiring cycle or every application cycle, right? I would have to see how long that would take to make that happen. So I can get back to you on that if you'd like.
And can you also just address if we don't quite hit that July target, what the plan B is?
Thank you. Right. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you can do that, but you'd like to get back to me on it. Is that?
Yes, yep. I can absolutely give you a timeline based on the current trends in applications.
But the
And then we
plan
have
B.
MMR in
Yes,
place. If
we
you
have
can just
MMR in
reiterate
place.
that,
Yep. So there will be no lapse in services at any point. So we have MMR in place. We have been working really well with them. We have a positive relationship with them, and that will continue to go until such a time as we're staffed. So we're really, we're kind of hobbled by the lack of staffing at this point. I mean, we cannot make this happen without staff.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yeah, not only do you have, are you hobbled by the staff problem, but there's also a discontinuity, there's what's it called? A continuity, no, that's not a word.
Continuity?
A continuity issue, a continuity issue with Chief Teller leaving in April, and, this is a big lift to get this, to bring in somebody new who knows what's going on, or maybe somebody that's already in the pipeline.
Benjamin, I'd be happy to speak to that.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Commissioner Shaw. I appreciate that. But what I've done over the past many years is that, my position, I'm responsible for succession planning and making sure that the city fire machine rolls along, whether I'm there or not. I like my vacations too, right? Yes, recognizing that I'm leaving April 24th, but this project has, for a few years now, stood on its own 2 feet, and with the hiring of Mrs. Dunklo here, I feel confident that there's not going to be any bump in the road at all. She and I speak all the time. We plan all the time. We meet with our company officers. In fact, and it's this month, I want to say in a couple of weeks, we're bringing the 4 captains together, which formed the foundation for implementing this program after the study was done, and then we formed the project and brought it to the commission. We're bringing everybody together with Catherine and me to make sure, we're going to do a gap analysis and make sure there's nothing we're missing. Should there be somebody like maybe from outside the area that's wearing the white shirt and the badge, that that this project will continue without issue. Also, too, any candidate that we would consider worth their salt is heavily invested in the EMS, the business of EMS right now in the fire service. It's the challenges we're having locally with staffing is not just Traverse City. It's everywhere in all walks of occupations, really. We are bringing on a gentleman from Texas, as Benjamin mentioned. We're testing out a gentleman from the Carolinas and also a local individual this Friday. So that's 3, if everything works out. And we're making steady progress. It's slower than what we anticipated, and there's a lot of factors that go into that I don't need to discuss here, but we are making positive progress. And the things that Catherine's been able to bring and implement with her position regarding the service that's being provided, it's very good, but there's always room for improvement. We're looking at data and not just response times, but different things we do on different scenes. There's a picture that was from today that kind of mimics one of these, but there's a new way to run cardiac arrest with our new heart monitor defibrillators, where we put a pad on the front and the back of the patient, and it's a new medical control standard. We're implementing that. We're training our people how to do that. And much like a NASCAR pit stop, everybody's got a job, right? Well, it's the same way in a cardiac arrest, and that saves so much time and makes it so much smoother and so much quicker and so much faster. And that's why we had how many last year? How many saves?
4.
Yeah, 4 witnessed arrest, and they're walking around town today. And hats off to the boots on the ground. Don't focus on the old guy there looking at the mannequin, okay? But the boots on the ground people are getting it done. And I'm confident that with the leadership provided by Catherine and the captains and lieutenants and everybody being responsible for themselves, that, yeah, there's going to be a new fire chief. There was a new fire chief before I came here, and we kept providing service. But I appreciate the question, but happy to answer any concerns in that area. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. What is the timing on making this go, no-go decision? When do you think we can be prepared to set that expectation with the community and communicate with our residents on moving forward?
I would say that would probably be within the next 30 to 60 days. And it's, if we're fortunate enough, to hire licensed paramedics, that's the shortcut. That's the quickest way to onboard personnel that we can put on the street that are not only competent, but also trained and meet all of the local certifications. Because it's quite a lot of hoops you have to jump through. The individuals from out of state, they have National Registry paramedic licenses, which are transferable, but they have to also abide by our protocols and our medical control authority and all these other things. There's an extensive orientation process. And they have to get through firefighter probation before that. So that would be the shortcut. If I had 8 individuals knocking on the door tomorrow, yeah, maybe we could do it this summer, but it's more likely going to get pushed off for a quarter or 2 quarters, something like that. But City Manager Benjamin is exactly right. The collective bargaining agreement, when that was signed and the new posting went out, that's when our phones started ringing, and that's what it takes. Traverse City is an awesome area, but people still, of course, need to be paid a working wage and be able to afford to be here and raise their families and all those things too. So there's a lot of good working in our effort right now, but it's timing. If we get them by 1s and 2s, I'm not disappointed in that. I'm fortunate because the people that we're getting by ones and twos are outstanding people. They really are. And that's what's gonna get us there at the end of the day. People that wanna be here for 20, 25 years.
That's great to hear, Chief. And I think I'm sure all of the commissioners agree that through this transition, it's most important to get it done and get it done right. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. We're
thank
gonna
you for
have-
all the work that you've put in. I know that this type of service can be extremely challenging.
Yep, back when I appreciate that, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. And back when we brought the study to the commission for approval, there was some discussion about actual numbers needed, and we're gonna have one shot to get this done right the first time, and that's what we need. We need the 10. Well, after we hired Catherine, we need 9, and now we need 8. And we have a couple of retirements coming up too, so we're always gonna have to be cognizant of how we can attract people, and we're working hard on that.
Any further, Commissioner Funk?
Yeah, I guess, these are not, thought about it long and hard. I don't financially benefit from this, so I'm not, I shouldn't, not a recluse myself issue. I just had some questions. Who are we using right now for ambulance billing? Because occasionally we are transporting as a secondary service. When MMR is not available, we've been called out into Garfield Township too. Who does the billing for those transports that happen?
Yep, we utilize a billing company called EMSMC. They took over a couple billing companies that were utilized by other agencies locally, and that happened, I think, a little bit before I started here. So we do recoup money from insurance providers, as well as if we provide mutual aid to other townships or jurisdictions, we collect revenue from that as well.
Do we think we'll continue to use that service when we take on the primary transport?
We will continually monitor that. It's difficult because we did 206 transports last year, which was an increase of 67% from 2024. And the more transports we get, the more data I can gather to see how effective this billing company is. So far, they've worked really well with us, and we've been able to tackle some issues that have popped up with residents being improperly billed and things like that. So we're trying to keep a very close eye on that, because obviously nobody wants to receive a bill in the mail, especially when they're paying for our services. That is not our goal. We don't want that to happen. But we have gotten a pretty good handle on that, and that issue seems to have gone away. So we're going to keep working with them, and we can reevaluate as time goes on.
What kind of collection rate are we seeing from, because we kind of have 3 customers. We have residents, we have non-residents, and those can be outside the city resident. They could be a visitor, a tourist, somebody that's just not a tax-paying city resident. And then we have the unhoused, and we know that we get like a Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement from the state for them. What kind of collection rate are we seeing with those like 260 some transports, like our average collection rate?
Oh boy, I would have to look at BSA to see the exact figure on that. It was over 40,000 year to date, or not year to date, excuse me, so far this fiscal year, and then we're budgeted 92,000. So we're on track to make that number. And as far as payer mix, I would have to look that up. I don't know it off the top of my head because there are so many different companies and insurance companies and things, but off the top of my head, for an ALS transport, Medicare, Medicaid pays anywhere from like $330 to $360 a trip for those patients.
I asked that collection rate because one of the things that I was hoping is that we can, as we start to take on the primary transport, and we're going to be taking a lot more people to the hospital, we'll be able to kind of forecast into the future and into each one of these budgets how much we anticipate collecting in the transport revenue, because we didn't want the 1 mil ambulance transport millage to be 1 mil forever. We wanted it to be able to be floating, so that once we get our footing going with this, we can start to lower that millage, and it just supports whatever balance the service needs. But that was the hope and the intention behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have spoken with Jeff Hayford, the MMR operations manager here for their Northwest Division, and I have requested his transport figures so that I can try and plug those in to give us some sort of projected transport amount. It's difficult and we've gotten better with our reporting too, on nailing down dispositions, which we, in our EMS reporting, we have to document disposition for transport, and there's different codings for those, and sometimes we kind of miss some of the coding. So as we continue to get better with those things and I can gather better data, I can really nail that down. But I'm just waiting on some numbers from Jeff. I talked to him probably 3 weeks ago on that.
Awesome, thanks for all your hard work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Commissioner Treadwell.
Yes, as somebody that did get an inadvertent bill when this system changed over, and apparently something hadn't cleared from the old system where I had a bill that had gotten taken care of, but it showed up again, and then I got a bill in the mail. I was very grateful that TCFD could resolve that situation, and thank you for continuing to keep an eye on the effectiveness of the billing service. I haven't heard of other problems since then, but other stuff can happen, and as you say, the more data you have, the better handle you have on how everything is working, and thus maybe other options are available.
Thank you, Commissioner Treadwell. I'm glad that got resolved. I know we've been keeping a really close eye on those things, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments related to the EMS transport? Well, I think this was a really great presentation. You provided us with some good paths forward. Caitlin, thank you. You're getting all the credit from Chief right behind you.
Oh, geez.
So we appreciate, again, all of the effort that has gone into this. Thank you.
Yep, and thank you for your support as well. We really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we will open it up for a public comment on this topic. Is there any comment at this time? Hearing none, I need to get back to my agenda. General pub, we will, oh, here we go. Sarah, would you like to read the rules again? Or
I
not?
read them once.
Okay, great.
I know what they are.
Okay.
On October 29th, I think I was one of the
Please.
four.
But then, if you know the rules, we need to hear
yeah,
your
Larry-
name and
Larry
address.
Gerspacher, 925 Kelly Street, Traverse City. On October the 29th, I think I might have been one of the four that they saved. I had a, watching TV at 8:30 in the evening, I had a feeling go up my chest, and I told my wife she better call 911. And the chief's Station 2, E2 got there, put me on the monitor, and I was in AFib, atrial fibrillation. And it wasn't long after that that I went into VFib, ventricular fibrillation. And so I was loaded into the ambulance and taken to Munson, and I got there and they couldn't get the ambulance door open. So here I am on the stretcher, and they're trying to work the door and get it open, and they finally did after a minute or so. But fantastic people. Chief has done an awesome, awesome job training his people and providing a service that, to me, was life-saving. So, Chief, thank you, and make sure your crew also knows that I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful story. Any other public comment on this topic? Hearing none, we will open it up for general public comment.
You want my address again?
Yes, please. And your
Leslie
name.
Ray, 304 West 13th Street. So, I don't know how long any of yous have been in this town, but for the amount of taxes we pay and stuff, and if you've been in this town very long, City Fire should have been transporting 20 years ago. This town is way behind its times. You want to hire 30 city firefighters? Why don't you hire 30 police officers? Because we'd like to see some once in a while. I don't expect to call the police and get a call back. That's not what I think about policing. When I was a police officer, somebody called, we showed up. Stop signs are a mere suggestion in this town. A mere suggestion. Because nobody stops at them. You know, the speeds are crazy. You know, for the taxes we pay, I'd like to see something. And I'd like to support the police officers. You know, I was a police officer. Chief Richmond has some solid police officers. But for me to, like, go buy stuff and take it to the police department. I really have a hard time doing that, you know? You guys think maybe because we have the state police in the city limits, that they're always around? They're not. Did you know that they cover 3 counties? You can't have 2 to 3 police officers on patrol at any given time. You can't have them working 16, 18-hour shifts. Your reaction time for driving, pulling a gun, making a decision, it's terrible. I think the most I ever pulled was 14 or 16 and I was done. How do you go home and decompress? And then show up to work the next day after dealing with everybody's problems? City Commission, you really, you know, I live on 13th Street. I got neighbors paying over $10,000 a year in taxes. And they asked me one day, they said, what do you get for your tax money? I said, nothing. I said, the same thing you get, nothing. You guys, you have a police academy right here. You have one at Ferris, you have one at Delta, you have one at Kirtland. You need to hire. That's your 2 most important things in this town, is your police and fire. I mean, get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Michigan's 189th birthday.
Thank you, Commissioner Treadwell.